Without further ado, welcome everyone. So today we're going to be talking about copywriting and not making those really common mistakes that pretty much everyone makes, at some point, one time or another. I'm sure there are mistakes that Michael would find on even the best websites now, but we're going to be going through and identifying not just how to prevent copywriting mistakes, but also how to really create great copy that leads to better conversions from your website. And then everything you learn from there, you can apply to print materials, to advertisements, to emails, anything that you're using for messaging with new leads and even clients who you want to upsell. So without going too much into that topic before introducing myself, I'm Maddy Martin. I'm the head of growth and education for Smith.ai. We are a 24/7 virtual receptionist service. We answer calls, chats, text messages, and Facebook messages for small businesses, most of whom are solo and small law firms. And joining me today is Michael Antonicelli. He is the founder and owner of Super Fantastic, which is a super fantastic brand name. And I just love that. And Michael, tell us about yourself.
So I'm a conversion copywriter. We will get into what that means during the presentation, but I help clients get measurable results. That could be leads, it could be sales, signups. That's kind of the name of the game. I have not worked with law firms before, so I'm kind of coming at this fresh, like maybe one of your clients might be if they've never hired somebody. So that's how I'm going to be examining things. But I'm going to try to get into principles and easy wins that you can do now and some things to think about in the long term. I'll get into a little of my history too, but that's so boring. So
we've got a slide for that.
Yeah, we got a slide.
You're way ahead of the game.
Yeah.
All right. So Michael, feel free to share your screen and let's get started.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, all good?
Great.
All right. So before I bore you all by talking about me, let's talk about why we're here. Copywriting. So why should we even care about that? If you're here, you kind of already have a hint that it's important, but maybe not how important it is. So this picture down here, this is called The Tale of Two Young Men. It's a sales letter. It's from the Wall Street Journal. This sold $2 billion worth of subscriptions to the Wall Street Journal just by itself. And it was in use for 28 years. Just a black and white letter, and the return on investment is absolutely insane. So, this is a little bit old school, but nowadays we have everything online, and that's like a 24/7 salesperson for you. I honestly believe that copywriting is the most important part of any business. So just imagine kind of like what an extra client or two each month or quarter while you're sleeping would mean for you. And then you're kind of saying, well, actually, this might be kind of way important. Okay, so now I'll talk about me. Michael, conversion copywriter by way of Disney video game animator. I used to be an animator. Super Fantastic, we already mentioned that was my company. I do a lot with copy hackers, was trained by them. I'm from sunny Chicago, as you can see, very sunny right now. It's a unusual time for that, actually. And I've been spending over a decade consulting with clients independently, even back when I was an animator. So conversion copywriting, measurable results, we mentioned that. So conversion rate, that's what we go for. That's leads, sales, signups, subscriptions. Another thing is average order value. So this is more for e-commerce, but that's making more money on each purchase. And then opens, clicks, click-through rate. This is more for emails and ads and stuff like that. So that's kind of what we do. And so here's what we're going to get into today. We might run a little long, so I'll see if we get to everything at the end. But we're going to get straight into these easy copywriting wins that we can do. Then we'll do some website reviews, copy On those websites, we will get into kind of some myths that people have about copywriting, and the bonus, the gold mine under your feet. And then if you decide that you want to get copywriting help, who and what to look for and how to avoid some mistakes with that, so you're all set. And hopefully we'll have some time for question and answer at the end. And if I do say something that doesn't make sense, Maddie's gonna make sure she lets me know so I can explain it. Okay, let's get right into the low-hanging fruit. So, there's a lot of long-term things, but here's some things that I've picked out that you could change today if you see this on your copy. So number one, this is the 10-to-1 rule. Count the number of times in your copy where you say we, us, our, I, and mine. Count the number of times you say you, yours, your, and you want to get 10 you for every one I. Essentially what we're talking about is focusing on your reader, not yourself. It's kind of like the guy at the dinner party who only talks about himself the whole time. Nobody wants to talk to that guy. Nobody wants to be friends with that guy. So don't be that guy. Talk about your reader. Aim for looking for 10 you-focused words versus to every one I, me, we focused word. Number two, short sentences. Long run-on sentences get the reader lost. They can't even remember why they started reading it in the first place. So we want to stick to just one idea per sentence. And so you can kind of look for these common connectors like and or commas when they're used in a way that combines two ideas, and that will kind of indicate like, should I take a look at this sentence? Can I break this up and make it one idea per sentence? And try to keep the sentence short. Eventually, when you do this for a little while, you can kind of vary your sentence length in a paragraph. So it introduces some kind of rhythm. If every sentence is the same length, it gets monotonous to read. And speaking of reading, make it easy to read. So readability, that's very important, because if it's hard to read, nobody reads it. It doesn't matter if you wrote Shakespeare there, nobody will ever get to it. So, a couple ways to do that is stick to large font. I'm a big fan of large font. You'll probably see in this presentation all my stuff. Just up the font size. Narrow column width. So what I'm talking about here is kind of the length from left to right of how long your text blocks are. If it's really long, let's say a person has a text sentence or a paragraph that stretches from all the way the left side to the right side of their monitor, they'll get lost on that. It's just very hard to follow along. So try to keep a narrow column width. And break up your blocks of text. So if you have just kind of one big text block there, you want to separate that into paragraphs. You want to use headlines, crossheads, bold, italic, that kind of stuff. And use an emphasis on your words. So bold, italics, highlighting, underlining. So this is important for people who skim. You want to make sure that they get what's most important out of it as well. And there's plenty of people who just skim and they never get into it. This might actually draw them into reading more as well.
For anyone who has seen or been advertised the ClickFunnels or anything around those landing pages, if you have clicked on one of those ads and landed on one of those landing pages, I think that last bullet is going to be very obvious to you. One of their main tactics is every other line seems to be larger font, bold, highlighted, etc. And the reason that they lean so heavily into that is because it works.
Yeah. Exactly, 100%. And you can eventually learn to get the most impact and where to minimize that, where to maximize that. And if you're doing it every other word, well, it might not look great for you. But here and there and using it in certain ways will really get the effect that you're looking for. At least try it. You don't have to go nuts with it, but try it out. Okay, so I hope those 3 tips are helpful. We are going to get into the website copywriting reviews. These are the websites on the docket here. you'll see some of the things that I talked about as we go through it. And I also want to give a quick thank you to everybody who submitted their website for a review. What we're going to do is we have a lot to get through, so I'm only going to focus on maybe one or two key areas that I think would show variety and benefit. It's not comprehensive for the entire site. I am going to cover the copywriting, but also the readability, because that's important, and the site usability and organization, because kind of the goal, and this is for websites, this is almost for anything at all, we want to remove the friction. Okay, we want to make this customer, potential client experience as easy as possible. So that's going to include how someone uses your site. Okay, let's get started. So first up, we have Rhodes Law. Hi, Tracy, if you're here. Okay, so here is Tracy's site. Before we get into it, 5-second tests. This is looking at, as soon as you go onto the site, what can you understand in 5 seconds? And we see here, probably what someone's going to read is creative solutions for families in conflict. They might get a little bit into here, but I think that creative solutions to me is a little bit confusing, not knowing what that means exactly. I've seen that in a few other lawyer websites. And it makes me wonder, like, does that mean that that people have tried other options and they need something, nothing's working, or they don't have a budget and that's how you make it work? So I would just kind of focus on what you're trying to get at with that. I feel like someone comes to your site, they're not saying, I really want a creative solution. They're saying they want something very specific.
So Michael, what you're saying here is also like, what is the definition of creative? Because your definition of creative, you may be intending to mean something that's not really coming across because you're not using a specific word that indicates the exact thing you're going to deliver. Like creative in a design context would mean actual creative, something that is a different color or something that is a different font, a graphic display. Something creative could also be, how do we work with your budget and get creative with it? Or you've tried all these different solutions and we're going to get creative with how we can solve this legal problem related to your family. Like there are probably many other even interpretations beyond that. So you might not realize that, you're not conveying your value really effectively up front here. Exactly. There's different ways of interpreting it.
That's exactly it. So it's about conveying your value up front. And that is difficult to do. Believe me, it's not easy. Distilling down kind of everything you do into a few short words. But it's worth doing the exercise and kind of saying, does this mean what I want it to mean? I like that you're saying families in conflict, Tracy. So you're at least getting into kind of a little bit about that. And then you say in the first line, we represent families in conflict, divorce, custody, and real estate. So we are getting into that. And I read through this section here. It's a little bit long for kind of a hero section, but I see what you're getting at. Everything we do at Rhodes Law, we believe in thinking differently and finding creative legal possibilities. We don't just sell legal advice here. We offer our clients a path forward and a way through. So you're really trying to hit the human element, and that's great. One thing I want to show you is, so if you can see my search here. So when I say we, see how many times we talk about ourselves in just one short paragraph, and now the number of times we say maybe you, there's none. So there's an opportunity here to kind of flip this and say, talk about your reader, about what you do for them, and how you make that possible. Going down a little bit more, kind of notice that actually the service sections here do a really great job of talking about you a lot. And these benefits up here, divorcing with dignity, protecting your children, these are benefits rather than just saying divorce or something like that. You're getting at what the person wants. So this is really nice here. I did go to the bottom. I saw your testimonials. And then have your footer here. When I first looked at your site, and I realized I didn't see your name anywhere. I thought I was looking for Tracy. I was looking for About You. So I went, okay, I'll look for the About Us section. And I went up here and I looked here and said, okay, so she didn't do one. Then I caught it. It's up here. That's your About section. So, and I was looking for it. So what I'm trying to get at here is most people expect a navigation here that's horizontal. When it's not there, they don't know where to look and they might miss it. And you actually have a really good About Us section here. You're breaking up the text, you're using quotes. So I almost missed it. And that kind of goes to show keeping a consistent navigation is important, because people might miss all this great stuff here. This navigation could be laid horizontally along with these other ones here, and that could make sure that everybody knows about that. That's all I wanted to cover for Tracy right now, and we will keep moving. So next, we have Williams Immigration, Carol Williams. Hi, Carol, if you're here. Here is your homepage. So here's the 5-second test again. What's good about this is, well, we know that it's immigration, so that's good. They know they're in the right place. They might need to know that you're a lawyer. I'm not sure exactly what people need to know. One thing I do want to mention is, just like with the creative solutions, it says something that maybe we don't intend. Images also can say something that we don't intend. So we have an image here of an airport, an empty airport, and this kind of ominous looking airplane in the background. It's kind of cold, it's kind of scary, and I don't think you want people, maybe people do feel that way. I don't think they want to keep feeling that way when they go to you. They want to feel better. So I would consider an image that maybe it's a picture of you, Carol, or just some people here, you know, something that kind of warms your heart a little bit. I can see why you put that. It's related, but it's I think it could be improved a little bit. So let's go down a little bit. And there also is, and let's talk about the headline and body copy. So there is an opportunity here to put a headline in there, something that draws people in. We say down here, creating immigration solutions. We can talk about that a bit more in a second. Let's keep going down. So here we have these large buttons for the different types of services you offer, what you cover. I think these are a little bit intense and draw your eye a little too much. I think if a person sees exactly what they need, like employer compliance, just a text link here could work as well. We don't want them to click away yet before they know kind of what you want them to know about you, until you told a little bit about yourself. And here we have that section, you know, strong commitment to immigration law. This is about you and what makes you different. And something very interesting here that I found. So it says founded by a former USCIS adjudications officer. So and I read a little bit more here, and it said that you know the system in and out. That's great. I mean, let's take some of this out and put that in bigger letters here. Let's pull it out, maybe work with it on the headline session. I don't know if, you know, an immigration law that's common or not, but if I didn't know that, it's a great selling point. Like, you know the system very well. So let's do something with that. One other thing I wanted to talk about here. So you have your testimonials, and Carol and I, we talked on Facebook a little bit about how to not promise results necessarily, but show results without over-promising. When I was going around your site, I saw your testimonials page here, and I was reading through your testimonials, and I saw this. She literally was responsible for my happiness, and I know that my husband's permanent residency application would not have been approved without her. I mean, if this isn't a result, I don't know what is. It doesn't have to be a number. It doesn't have to say we're going to win for you. I mean, this means so much, and it's true and it's heartfelt. Let's pull that out. Let's bring that to the front page. You know, that's interesting to people. That's something you kind of want to magnify. So it's kind of buried here in the testimonial section. Let's do something with that. So I hope that helps, Carol. We're going to keep moving on. Okay, next is Middleton Legal. Shireen, thank you if you're here, thank you for submitting. Let's have a look here. So the 5-second test. This does really well on the 5-second test. You've got your Middleton Legal, your trusted attorney, and bankruptcy, real estate, estate planning. It gets it all out there. It's straightforward. Clarity is better than being clever, if clever can possibly mess with clarity. And we're going to get into that a little bit more as well. Maybe, you know, and like I said, sometimes we could work on your trusted attorney. It works, but with a little bit of time, maybe we can come up with something a little more unique that's related to you. What I wanted, so this is very polished. I feel bad because I haven't gone through like an overview of everyone's site, so I'll just do a quick scroll down. These are social proof here. These badges are great. We have the testimonials out on display, the map, and the contact us. This is essentially a one-page site, except for the about us, but we will get to that. What I wanted to mention is around here on the homepage. So here we have our services, and then you say, my name's Shireen, and you talk about what's important to you, offering your clients the very best advice, what you do best. This isn't really the section under our services to say that, and we could kind of break this out, make it a little bit bigger, and kind of put that maybe somewhere before our services to kind of talk about yourself. I think it's a little bit similar to what's up here as well. So that just might not be the right place for it. You could have our services here, and then you kind of get down into what you're talking about. So let's get into this. For each of these sections here, we talk about the different services. We have what it is, and then we get into the description. We could do a little bit better with that. If you remember Tracy's example, we were talking about what's called the benefit first. So what does getting out of bankruptcy mean to somebody? What we could do is, and I have a little app here that I think I could, if I can get to it, to rewrite something on the fly. So what if you said, get creditors off your back? Writing copy on the fly isn't the best way to do it, but that might sound a little odd, or say get financial relief or something like that. So what we can do, this is called eyebrow copy. So you can say in smaller letters, I don't know if I can get the font to work up here, but let's see if I can just copy and paste. There. So someone comes down here and they see, get creditors off your back. And then the second thing they see is bankruptcy. This is called eyebrow copy. So they're getting the benefit, they're getting that kind of emotional response. That's like, yeah, I really want to do that. Oh, bankruptcy. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. And then they start reading more. This section down here can kind of benefit probably from some emphasis on like bolded stuff and things like that, just to draw people in. So that's something I would recommend in these sections here. You could do the same thing with real estate, same thing with estate planning. One more thing, each of these buttons here, they are saying the same thing, contact us. It's okay to have the buttons, but maybe change them to value-based, like change this to something like get relief now. And you click on that and it takes you down to the contact us section. One more thing I wanted to mention real quick, the About Us page. The About Us page is a great place to talk about your mission, your values, something deeper. It's a huge assist to getting people to reach out to you because they want to know who you are as much as they can before they interact with you. Here in this About Us page, it's really just goes straight to the kind of team roster here. And we have just really one you can only click on, which is Shireen herself. And we get into just a straight biography, which is good to have. I would recommend just pulling this out and putting it all on this one page and having your biography here to reduce clicks. And this would be after you kind of talk about maybe the mission, some of the things you were saying on the home page, what you pride yourself on and those kind of things. You would put around here, then you can go down, you could have a team roster section. You could have your bio down here too, and just keep it all on one page. It reduces clicks, reduces effort, reduces friction. Okay, let's move on to the next one. I think we're doing okay on time. Okay, so Rebecca Bartlett. All right, 5-second test. That's about 5 seconds. That's as long as it goes. You can see right away, veteran disability benefits representation. It's right there. It's clear. That's number one. We get into a little more here. Welcome. Our office is military spouse owned, dedicated to assisting military members seeking compensation for the benefits, for the VA benefits they are entitled to. So you're starting to get into kind of what the difference is, what's unique about you. Meet Rebecca, and here's your bit about your biography, a bit about you, and it does get into the personal side a little bit here, which is good. Trust logos down here, great. I really like this. Don't let the VA have the final say. It's going towards the emotional side of it, and I think that's a really good banner to have. So let's go back up. So here's maybe one way we can improve. So I talked about kind of short sentences and clarity and getting there quickly. What if we said, get the VA benefits you are entitled to. And down here, we could get more into what's unique about you, or maybe up here, if we worked on it a little bit more. This would be maybe a really good headline too. So that could even, let's see if this works, be your headline. And we would probably go through and capitalize these a little bit, see how that looks. You know, we're ending in a preposition here, but we can break the grammar rules for some time. And we could probably polish that a little bit more. But here, if a person lands on the page, they see this right away, it's more persuasive. And then they see maybe down here kind of what you're all about. Now, I did read through your history here a little bit, and you come from a military family, Rebecca. I really liked this part here. Makes your passion to assist veterans more than just professional, it's personal. So how about instead of meet Rebecca, because it doesn't mean anything to anybody really. They know that you're the law office of Rebecca and they want to get to know you, but to make it a little bit more persuasive, we could say, actually pre-copy this down, but helping veterans isn't just professional. We did it. Oops. It's personal. This feels like it has more impact. You know, maybe even bold something like that. Someone will be like, you know, I think that will go a long way, and then they can kind of read about you and who the person is that does that for them. So by the way, I didn't change anything on your site. This is just a plugin that I use, so that won't be saved, but you can copy it down if you want to use it. One last thing, the pineapple logo, I was confused by that. I'm not sure if I'm missing something, if that's related to what you do somehow. I know you're in Florida. I don't know how much pineapples grow there. They don't grow around here. So if it's connected somehow, maybe a veteran would understand it, great. Otherwise, I got kind of confused. I was trying to figure out what that was all about. You could probably get a new logo that is more related to what the service you offer, like on Upwork or something like that, for a decent price. And that might go a long way if it's not related.
Just one thing, Michael,
Sure.
while you're still on this site, a couple of things that I noticed. The phone number, I see the icon up at the top if everyone's looking at that header.
Yeah.
Even before you get to the dark blue background, it's really hard to see that. And it's a blue because it's a link, right? So it's a click to call link, which you probably have enabled, the browser enables automatically, et cetera. It's a good thing unless you can't see it. So it's very hard to see the contrast on the changing image background when you're up at the top of the site is hard enough. Now it's nearly impossible. The other thing that I'll say is that, you don't necessarily have to have an info@ or admin@ email address if you don't want it to come to you personally. One of the things that you can do is have it be rebecca.bartlett@bartlett.legal. And that actually is a general admin inbox, but people feel like they're emailing you, they're emailing the firm. It's personal, as you say, and that continues on with the brand. It continues on with that one-on-one hands-on approach. That is a generally managed inbox that you're not personally responsible for. Maybe your personal email is Rebecca@ or rlb@bartlett.legal that nobody knows or sees, that only you use for personal exchanges. So you don't have to have it be admin. That sort of feels like that black hole email. Does anyone check this thing?
Yeah, those are great points. I didn't know about that, the name part as the admin part, but that's really cool.
Whatever you want it to be. People are just used to
yeah.
admin.
Yeah.
It's up to you,
Yeah, I mean, and we want this to be personal. We don't want to email admin. We want to email Rebecca.
Exactly.
So put Rebecca's name on there.
Emailed admin and it was like the local library. And
exactly.
Crossing your fingers like, does anyone check this thing?
You did bring up a good point, and I didn't get into this too much, but yeah, having your colors stand out, that's super important. That can mess with what you want people to read and to see, and it doesn't always have to be blue. A blue on blue background is tough, but sometimes just having something over an image like this, these scrolling images in the background, sometimes this has kind of a darkness on the back, but sometimes it can really mess with the text too, and then people have trouble reading it. They don't read it. They didn't read what you have to say.
You spend all your time on this great copy and then you can't read it, right?
That's why I complain about that so much, which you'll see I'll do it again pretty soon. Okay, Rebecca, so we are going to move on now to YSpin Law. Matthew, hopefully I'm saying the name right. If it's YSpin or YSpin, I am sorry about that. Let's go. So 5-second test. So we see a headline there. It's kind of small. When I first went on your site, Matthew, it was difficult for me to figure out what you do. I was actually wasn't sure I was on the right site, to be honest. This is kind of an issue with sliders. So, as any animations or sliders, as a former animator, it breaks my heart to say it, but they are it's just better not to have them, because something like this could happen. You maybe create a great headline, you put it on a slider, and there's 7 slides here. Somebody may only see it at 1/7 of the time that they're on your site, and that might not be the time that they show up. So I really don't recommend sliders or animations, especially if they draw your eye away from what you want them to look at. If you didn't have a slider up here, but it looks like the blog post is actually a slider too, I might be reading something really important about you, and then this catches my eye down here, and I shift to that. So I really recommend kind of a static text, large, in charge. This has the imagery. I won't get into that too much right now, because we kind of did that a little bit. Down here, so we're scrolling down, and we've got the blog post section, and then we have the footer. There's really no copy here. There's nothing trying to persuade. There's a bit in each of these. What can patents do for you? I guess a person has to scroll through and get to them, but there's a real big opportunity here to say a little bit about yourself, even just a small amount. Put a testimonial, say, just persuade someone, yeah, so that's a big opportunity. So here's another thing. We talked a little bit about navigation and expectations. So when I was going through your site, I went to one of your sections here, and then I wanted to go back home. So traditionally you can press the home button and press the logo on someone, and it goes back home. When I pressed your logo, I got this, and I was clicking it, and I thought I was pressing something wrong. I thought I was pressing up here. So your logo link is a telephone link. It's not the homepage. That's probably going to cause some confusion for people, because they on every other, most 99% of the sites, the logo is taking you back home. And even after I knew that this was there, I still sometimes just press it just to go back. And it's just the habit. So when it comes to things that people already have an expectation, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. I know you deal with inventions a lot, but this isn't the area that you want to mess with that. You want to kind of stick to what people know. Let's go to the How I Help section. So we talked a bit about readability. And when I went through here, I had a tough time reading into all the different areas you go, because the way this so I talked about narrow text too, but this is really narrow, really too extreme on the narrow side, and placed next to each other, it looks kind of like a spreadsheet. And it was difficult to really get in and read what you had here. So I would really recommend you could have these more vertical, you could have them in little boxes, something like that, with different sections. And it's much more likely that someone will read through this. The second thing is you have the recent tweets here, but all the tweets are dated 4 years ago. So I would just drop this section, because it's not really doing you any favors to keep them up there if it's not recent. And I used to have this on my site as well, and I didn't tweet for a long time, and I just got rid of it. One thing that I really liked that you did here, and it's not even in your navigation at the top, it's down here in the bottom navigation. It's the pricing and payments. So in your pricing and payment section, you actually talk about your reader a lot more. You highlight and you bold some things like, for you, the bottom line matters, time is money, and you're really talking about them more. And so that's something I don't see on the rest of the site. So I would use that as a good example. And you're kind of saying, you're busy, I offer multiple ways. So you're really thinking about them and trying to come up with something for them. It's focused on their needs. So one last thing, we haven't talked about the contact section. So we're going to show this. So let's read through this. Here's the copy. By using this form to email me, you agree that sending me an email doesn't create an attorney-client relationship. Please send only a general question or the statement of what you're looking for. Please don't send confidential information. I will respond to you promptly, but I may not respond. For instance, if I think your message is spam. So the first part here, this is lawyer talk, right? This is the disclaimer. This isn't how we want to kind of start off a conversation. This might be closer to the bottom. This might be a checkbox that someone clicks before they send you a message, like, I agree that I'm not sending confidential information, or that it's a relationship. This last section, I will respond to you promptly, but I may not respond. That's I would definitely recommend not saying that, because first of all, if it's a spammer, they're not going to care.
Read the messages.
Yeah, they don't care. Second, if the person is interested and they're going to message you and they think maybe I won't get a response, well, it's not very inviting. Yeah.
Don't effectively deter the spammers. It's not effective in either way.
Exactly. So Matthew, I would really would you say that to your friend or a relative or something? Well, maybe you would if you're like my family. I'm not going to talk to you. But I mean, we want to be more inviting, friendly, and it's I understand why you put these here, and I completely understand it from kind of the spam emails you've gotten and people who are expecting things. but we can sort through that, and we can kind of put this in different areas, minimize it so it's not the first thing someone sees, and it's more inviting. All right, so we have finished the reviews. We are at 40 minutes on the hour. So hopefully that was informative. I'm going to go through some copywriting myths that a lot of people have when they get into this. Let's start. So myth number one, it's got to be creative. The truth, clarity is greater than creativity. So I mentioned this a little bit. It's better to be clear than clever. Straightforward and clear beats clever and unclear. So if you can do both, great. If it's a risk, maybe you don't. This is number one for everything. So it's not just headlines, especially with learned behavior. So we talked about navigation. I did have one client who has wanted to do like creative navigation names instead of the about section, the home. They want to get really creative with it. And I do not recommend that, as you don't want to mess with kind of this learned behavior that people have when they're navigating your site. It's just it could cause problems. It's not a risk worth taking. Myth number two, it's got to be short. Because everybody has short attention spans now. Everybody's thinking in 140 characters or something like that. Truth, long is okay. Long-winded isn't okay. And by the way, longer copy is necessary for larger purchases. From expensive purchases, you can't just get away with saying just a little bit. People want to know a lot and make a decision before they make a big purchase. So how do we do this? First of all, you just mercilessly cut what isn't clear, what isn't necessary. If it's saying something twice, get rid of the second part. Cut what is unnecessary, simplify sentences, simplify ideas, and break it up for readability. So we talked a little bit about this, but you're adding paragraphs, you're adding headlines, even images. So you're breaking up kind of a long type of text so people read through it. And emphasize, so that's the skimming thing, that's the bold, the italics, those kind of text effects. So people can skim and get what they want, the most important part. Bold, italic, etc. Myth number three, my industry is so boring, so the copy has to be boring too, right? This is the gold mine part. You're standing on a gold mine. What's interesting about you? What's interesting about your company? I'm sure there is something that is interesting about it. Say it. Bring it out there. Say it. Say it first. What's interesting about you? What makes you different? An interesting tidbit. That's really what's gonna draw people in. Even if you think your industry is boring. I personally think that there's no such thing as a boring industry. There's only boring copywriters or boring copywriting. And use your testimonials. So I did that a little bit to just pull out some voice. It's called voice of customer data. It's what the customer is actually saying, what your client is saying. Their words are so powerful. They're not just social proof, but they're also great for results. It's what the people want to walk away with after they work with you. Their feeling, how they feel after they interacted with you. So look at your testimonial, see what people say, use that kind of language. All right, we actually are doing pretty good on time, so I can get into copywriting help. So, if you don't have the time, or you think like you don't want to jump on this, at some point, you might want to get help from an expert on this. So here's what you can do to evaluate copywriters. So their experience. So from what I've noticed, an hourly usually means junior. So if sometimes you do want somebody who's a little bit more junior. Veterans, they start to see their value a bit. They see the market rate around other copywriters. Rookies don't really see that, so they just go hourly. And this is a rule of thumb. There are exceptions to that. You might see. Looking at their clients. So you might see some copywriters with big client logos and names. Sometimes you won't. And the reason is there's a lot of NDAs involved, as you probably know about. And some copywriters just prefer smaller companies or medium-sized companies because they like working with them. So that might not be a goal of theirs.
Michael, one thing that I'll mention here also, just in personal experience, I've hired a lot of people and a lot of contractors. If you have good clients on your website as a contractor or copywriter, whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean that that person who's showing that logo actually was the lead on the project or did all the work. I've interviewed a lot of people who ended up saying after some prodding, oh yeah, I worked on that project, and they basically served the coffee to the team in the.
Oh, really?
So, I mean, you have to really ask the right questions and say, oh, tell me more about, what you did for that client and what was involved in that work. And you can very quickly sort of unravel it if there's unraveling to be done.
Yeah. And they might be limited on what they can talk about, once again, with the NDA stuff, but ask them what their involvement was and what they did for them. Sometimes it is something smaller. It might not be the lead on their website. If they work for Google, they might have just did a small portion of that, but they still work for Google, right? Which is hard to do. So it can mean something, and sometimes it might mean more or less than when you first see it. What I want to recommend for people is take a look at their testimonials. It's a great way to see how a client has how they've served their clients, and even better, case studies. It takes a little while to put together a good case study, but those are like the testimonial on steroids. So that's always good to see.
And do those testimonials, again, mention that person by name? Oh, Michael does such a good job with X, Y, or Z, or do they just say, it was great working with the super fantastic team? And you're like, who's that?
Oh, yeah. If they're a bigger team, exactly. So who are they interacting with? Really, it's just me. So if you say that, that's me automatically.
Wasn't an accurate example.
Yeah. Maybe for somebody bigger. So here you go. Portfolio. And here's what I've noticed a lot is, and especially coming from as an animator, it was all about the demo reels, all about the portfolio. For copywriters, the medium is the message. That means, how's their website? They wrote it themselves. Do you like that? What did it do for you? Did you read the whole thing? Did it make sense? How do you feel at the end? Are you persuaded? You almost don't need the didn't they work on 80? I need to see that they wrote 80 emails. If they know how to write, you will know right away based on how you feel. So how is their own copywriting? And that's eventually something that a good copywriter is able to do for themselves, even though writing for yourself is the toughest thing ever. So keep that in mind when you are evaluating people. Okay, so getting the most out of your relationship. If you do hire a copywriter at some point, you want to make sure that you get everything you can get out of it, get the best copy possible. So try hands off, but don't disappear. Let them do their job. If they're a conversion copywriter like I am, we are going for the same goal as you. We are going for your KPI. What do you want? What you're trying to get? If it's more leads, something like that. Think of it as a strategic partnership, and a lot of why that comes to be is because when we look at the data, what the customer's saying, it might not be what you thought it was all about. Maybe it's something different. And if the data says one thing, but our expectations are different, keep an open mind on that. I don't personally know any copywriter who doesn't want to be the reason that their client is making tons of money. This is what we eat and sleep. What we eat and sleep thinking about how to make that happen. So partners rely on each other. So don't go in the other direction either. Don't just ghost it and say, well, call me when it's finished. There will be times where we might want to fill in some gaps, something's not making sense, or need some more information on something. So it's like a partnership. So you got to be there for each other, and great things will happen in the end. So when you finally get the good copy ready, you've been sent to it, here's a big mistake I see a lot. You rewrite it yourself without testing it, and right at publishing time. You know, if someone's a conversion copywriter like me, so we collect a lot of data, we also validate that messaging, we test it with users and stuff like that. Everything we do, every word, the length of everything, it's all chosen for a reason. And what happens is the best copywriter, they will present their copy to you, they will go through it with you, and then it's a great time to ask questions, to tell them what you're concerned about, because what you see, like I said, the data may show something that is different from what you thought. It might not be, it might be the opposite of what you thought. And then that message gets tested as well. So it's if there is a risk there, it's a calculated risk. That's the best kind of risk to take. Let me just back up for a second. So when you write it yourself, right before you publish it, you're kind of going on your own intuition, which sometimes is not the best way to do it. It's not tested, and maybe you haven't spent as much time doing copywriting, so it might not be in the best form as well. So try not to mess with it, but talk to your copywriter about it before you need to do that. Show your copywriter before it's delivered. And that also applies to when you're handing it over to your designer, your web designer, or a web developer. Show it to the copywriter. Sometimes the designer does something, they go kind of off and do their own thing. It becomes harder to read. If it's hard to read, we already talked about this, nobody will read it. And if your web developer is writing something or messing with the design and color, that's going to cause a lot of problems too. They should stick to the code and not mess with that. So they might have opinions about it. They might not even value the writing itself because they just don't deal with it. They don't know. That's it for now. That's all, folks. There's a couple things that I wanted to give away, but we can either do questions and answers now, or we can do it after that. What do you think, Maddy?
No, I think that, I just had one comment on the last slide. We don't have any questions right now, but the one comment that I had is, obviously it's a collaborative process, as Michael is saying, it's a partnership, and there is a kickoff period where, there can be an intake that the copywriter provides that says, what are some of your feelings about what you think works? So what copy have you been using, or do you want to test, that you want to explore, that's on your, in your notebook, so to speak? Share that and say, these are the things that I really want to see. How does it go up against, Michael's crafted copy? Michael doesn't care. Is his copy better than your suspicion of what's going to be good copy? He wants, again, as he said, your business to grow as a result of this work. So that's a great time to share all of those ideas that you have, and then let the copywriter fit those into different areas of your website where they make sense.
That's a really great point. And that actually leads to here. So I put together a free guide to hiring a copywriter. It actually goes into what you just said, Maddy. It talks about, we're going to ask you a lot of questions. We're going to want to know what your goals are. It's a more detailed version of this. So there's a link to that. It's free. I can see about dropping that into the chat. I don't know if I could do it from here. Yeah, you can go there and get what you need.
I'll provide that in the show notes and everything.
Okay. I lost my window here. Oops. Last one is the bonus. It's an attendee discount. So I do offer a more in-depth copywriting analysis, $100 off for everybody who's attending or watching a replay. If you click that link, you'll get details on everything that I do for that. It's a recorded video, about 45 to 60 minutes. You get a transcript, you get a follow-up call, and you get up to 3 URLs reviewed for the next month. So that's pricing. Just email me first if you want a in-depth analysis on your site, or it could be another asset that you have.
Michael, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, that guide and the special discount. I mean, that's actually a substantial discount. So thank you so much for making that happen and making it even more accessible to work with you. I know a lot of people who are watching this are, keeping a close eye on their budget, especially right now. And, every dollar matters when you're running a small business, a small law firm. Even though we focus just on, law firm websites today, a lot of these principles apply to every business website, and small business websites have a lot to gain. These incremental changes, if you're thinking, oh, that wasn't so shocking, what Michael said, go and look at your website and see what things you can change right now that is low-hanging fruit, that you can immediately get more out of those website visitors who are landing. You could say, I don't have many website visitors. Well, then every single one is precious. So this is actually really valuable, whether you have a large site or a small site. And I will, of course, follow up with everyone who was registered with the details and the links, and Michael's contact information. And if you're watching the recording, obviously it will be provided in the notes attached to the video. So, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Michael, thank you so much for all of the immense prep work that you did. Thank you for really diving in and offering something of substantial value. That was considerable time that you spent on that. And, I think speaking for the entire group who's with us here today, it's really appreciated and very generous of you. So
Sure.
We will, look forward to seeing you across the various social groups I know that you're in with Smith.ai and with other attorney communities that we're in together. And please, everyone, reach out to Michael if he can help you, or if you're not sure how he can help you and you just want to have a bit of a conversation about it first.
Sure.
There's always, more to be gained from working here, and websites aren't going anywhere. So if you're thinking, websites are a way of the past, not for the foreseeable future. That's not what we see at Smith.ai, and that's not what small business owners are seeing every day. So this is a meaningful and still long-term investment to make. So without further ado, Michael, just thank you again, and I will leave everyone to have a wonderful rest of your day. And thanks for spending the last hour with us.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Take care, everyone. Bye.